Hey guys, it's Brian coming to you from the TST garage once again. Today I have a customer's 2017 Kawasaki Ninja 650 behind me. We're going to want to take off his OEM stock, very ugly Fender that he wants to have removed, and we're going to be replacing it with one of a few of the solutions that we have for this bike. The first solution I'll touch on is just our standard bracket. It's going to be very, very simple, very straightforward. Gives you a place to mount pod signals if you want them, obviously your license plate and a license plate light. But beyond that, it doesn't do too much for you. Now the next level up is going to be our Elite-1, which does come with an aluminum closeout and your standard bracket. So this aluminum closeout is going to block off some of that geometry that's left open when you remove the OEM fender. It's going to allow you to mount up your license plate bracket to it, close out this center hole if you have no wires to run through it, and if you do have wires to run through it, such as turn signals or your license plate light, that does give you a spot to do that still. Along with this Elite-1, we do have our Elite-1 adjustable, which I'm sure you guys have seen in other videos if you followed us a little bit. This is going to give you a wide range of motion for your plate. Your plate can be all the way tucked up against the subtray or all the way back out, so it's very, very visible. In this installation specifically, we're going to be touching on the Elite-1 closeout system with the standard bracket and our Elite-1 adjustable setup, which comes with this adjustable bracket here and this closeout. So guys, let's get right into this installation. It's going to be super simple and straightforward. All right guys, so for this particular installation, we are going to be running some signals through our closeout bracket. However, I am going to show you, if you were going to just be using this closeout as a closeout itself, you're going to take the small included M6 countersunk, throw that through the middle hole, through the small washer on the opposite side, and then your nylock nut on the other side. You're going to want to tighten that down, crank it down. Now again, I said we're not going to be actually using this setup, so I'm going to throw that off to the side. If you were using this as just a closeout, you would also have been provided with two longer countersunk screws. You would throw those up through the closeout, up into the bike. On the opposite side of that, throw a large washer on each of the screws, two nylock nuts, on each. Throw that up into the bike with your center closeout, and you have a completely closed out undertail. Again, it's not what we're going to actually be doing in this video. In this video, we're going to show you how to mount up our standard bracket to our closeout, just like that. Very similarly, once you get into the bike, on the other side of your frame components, you're going to throw a washer and, you guessed it, a nylock nut. On the other one, very similar, a washer and a nylock nut. So these would be on the other side of your frame components. This would be up into the motorcycle, and from here, we would maybe throw on a pod signal kit, route our wires through the center hole, get those plugged in, but we'll get to that a little bit later, possibly in another video. So, in this particular video, we are going to be focusing mainly on the installation of our Elite-1 adjustable setup. So, with that being said, you are going to get the adjustable setup exactly the way that you see it here in front of me, disassembled and needing a little bit of TLC before you could get it on your motorcycle. So, I'm going to walk you guys through the steps of putting this together and getting it ready to throw back on that bike. So, I'm going to start with one of my hinges, one of my brackets. Now we are going to want to make sure that we're in the right orientation, so you want this little sloping portion right here to be facing towards the rear of the motorcycle, and in this particular installation, we're going to want our bent brackets to be bent down and the bend to be towards the inside, because you could also run these in that fashion, but we'd actually like the hinge itself on the inside so that our bracket can mount up like that. So we're going to take the smaller M6 bolt with the small washer, hand thread that into this side of the hinge and bracket. Got that one done. We're going to do the same process on the other, making sure we have a mirror. So we're going to want to run, remember, the slope in the front, the bracket on the outside with the bend facing down, angled down rather, Now, you won't see me doing it right now because we are going to be pulling this off once again, but if this is a semi-permanent solution for you, I would suggest possibly including a little bit of Loctite on these fasteners. The two that I'm about to install, you don't need as much because they do thread into nylock, but especially on these little hinge bosses, you would want to throw a little bit of blue Loctite on there just to give those a little bit of vibration resistance. So on this application, we're going to go through the center of the 3 holes on either side, through our bracket, through our bracket, making sure that our hinge boss is still facing upward. Then we're going to take our small M5 flange nylock nut, hand thread that on. Now I've gone ahead and grabbed a 3mm Allen key, a 8mm open wrench. I start to tighten that down. Once I start to get a little bit tighter, you're going to want to get this in a position that you kind of like. You don't want to crank everything down just yet. We want a little bit of free play in here. We're going to do the same on the other side. So countersunk in the middle hole, through our bracket, both of our hinge bosses facing up, that's good. Again, hand threading on. Start to turn that down a little bit. Again, just leaving a little bit of play in these brackets, which will allow me to really get this adjusted to the right position that I want it to be sitting at. So that's going to do that part of the installation. It's pretty straightforward. Let's jump into the actual installation of the closeout with the adjustable Fender Eliminator. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to have our closeout handy and want that nearby. We're going to take our 2 M6 bolts, take our larger diameter washer, throw those on, and then we're going to go down through the rearmost mounting holes. We're going to go through our subframe and our subtray. We're going to take our closeout, position it accordingly, and then we are going to grab our adjustable bracket, start to hand thread one of those sides in, and then crank that down a little bit again. I mentioned it in the intro, and I'll mention it again. If you guys are making this a semi-permanent solution, you are going to want to use a little bit of blue Loctite on these as well. Basically anything that goes into the hinge boss, I would consider using some blue Loctite just to give some vibration resistance. So, as you guys probably just saw as I was talking, the bracket did move around a little bit. That is why I kept the adjustability on these 2 screws here so that the brackets could move a little bit to position. Now that I have it in position, I'm going to go ahead, bottom these guys out just a little bit, then I'm going to come around to the front. I'm going to use my bracket as a gauge of how centered I am, because you'll actually see parts of that little L bracket behind the license plate bracket itself. So I'm going to use that as a gauge to see how centered I am, which is not very at the moment. At this point, guys, we could go ahead and throw our license plate on. If we were going to do signals, we would have wanted to have done signals a little bit before we actually cranked everything down, because you are going to want to run your signal up through the hole in the closeout and over to the side, but we will cover that in another video. So let's throw our plate on, adjust the plate's position, and call this video finished. And then, guys, here is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. You can come all the way up. You go all the way down. Granted, you can't see it there. Some guys might like that. I'm going to pick a happy medium, keep it in a pretty standard spot. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my M4 and give these side bolts just a little bit more of a tightening to lock that in position. Guys, we're going to throw it on our passenger seat, and we are going to call this installation totally complete. Very simple, very straightforward. All right, guys, so with our Elite-1 adjustable setup on this 2017 Kawasaki Ninja 650, this bike is ready to go back to the customer that brought it in a much better fashion, in our opinion, and hopefully his. I think this is a much better solution than that OEM Fender. Now you will notice we don't have any signals on here. That is something that the customer was okay with. We did provide the option to throw on the pod signals, which you guys could find in another video if that is something you want to go ahead and do. But our customer wanted it this way, so that's the way we're gonna give it back to him. If you did like this part or wanna pick up any of the others that might have caught your eye in the video, we do have spools and bar ends on this bike right now. If you wanna pick those parts up, visit our website at tstindustries.com. If you want to check out more videos like this, visit our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up on this video if it was helpful. Give us a thumbs down and explain yourself in the comments if you want something changed. Let us know. Subscribe to our channel. We'll catch you next time.